Welcome back to my series ranking every boss in Elden Ring, Bloodborne, Sekiro, and Dark Souls. This time, we're on to bosses that are kinda stinky, but don't make me want to vacuum out my eyeballs. I'm looking at you, Gank Squad. Number 152, Dragon Riders. Ah yes, the fodder of many a flame sessions. Dragon Riders are kind of everything wrong with Dark Souls 2. It's a recycled, ganky boss that you stumble upon aimlessly. Why did they choose to duo gank reskin a boss that people didn't even like? Although it's pretty bad, it actually has a few interesting design elements, such as the ability to destroy the pillar that the archer is standing on. Because he's an archer, although he's the same exact size with the same armor on, he has less HP, meaning if you can figure out this little trick, you can kill him in a few hits. With the ability to approach this wet fart of a fight in multiple ways, it just escaped the bottom 10. 151, Ancient Dragon. This fight could have easily landed itself in the bottom 10, and I see the case for swapping this one with Mr. Potato. Perhaps the main reason it jumped over the other fights is because I enjoy the build-up, previous area, and entrance of the dragon. The presentation is otherworldly, and once you get the combat down, it's not a difficult fight. But what a slog it is. People complaining about the fire giant need to face Ancient Dragon and just watch how much standing around doing nothing is necessary to win without getting one shot. His damage is stupid, meaning tanking any hits is not an option. When he flies, you run. While the combat is actually that bad, the general experience keeps this Ancient Dragon from crumbling into nothingness. Number 150, Royal Rat Vanguard. When it comes to Souls games, there are two kinds of bad bosses. One is the kind that's so utter BS that you'd rather sit on tax than have to go through it again. And the other is the kind that is so forgettable that when you're making these lists, you have to actively look up all the fights of the game to make sure you don't leave it out. I think you can probably tell, this is one that fades right into the background. I guess it's funny that the final boss rat has a mohawk? The added status effects to the fight are simply minor annoyances, and with a little bit of patience, this fight is one of the easiest in the series. If you can't tell, I prefer the forgettable fights to the absolute BS ones. It's just so funny, it's a mohawk! Number 149, Capra Demon. Controversial take alert here. Prepare your butthole. Dogs in Souls are annoying. I know, shocking. It had to be said though. Somebody had to do it. I'm so brave. Just pick one, FromSoft. Pick to add a couple of dogs to the boss arena or make the arena claustrophobic and restrictive. You can't have both. You're trying to have your cake, eat it, and shove it in the player's face all at the same time. The fact that you were instantly ambushed by all three of the enemies the moment you blindly meander through the fog gate means that every time you face this enemy is a coin flip. And because of the bloated runbacks of early Souls games, you can't just walk in and try over and over. It's always a huge effort to get back, and it's not one that I enjoy. Capra on his own is really cool, but very easy, and with the dogs, way too hard. Find a balance, weirdos. Number 148, Half-Light, Spear of the Church. NPC boss fights are big piles of poopy. This fight is ambitious in its premise, but flops in its execution. Another player being the gatekeeper to your final Souls boss is such an unbelievably epic idea. However, the arena is kind of bland, the fight is regularly unbalanced due to the randomness of who you get, and the fight against the actual NPC variant is just horrible. It's also a gang fight. I know what they wanted to happen here, but maybe they just needed a little more time to flesh it out before shipping the product. Thankfully, the other bosses of this DLC slap. 147, Dragon Rider. Hyde's Tower of Flame set up whatever boss rounded it out for massive success. After I fixed the divot in the ground created by my jaw being on the floor after reaching this area, I was baffled at how underwhelming Dragon Rider was. But look at this guy, you can just walk around him. He was kind of exactly like every enemy I had just faced in the area. A huge difference from what I had expected coming from Dark Souls 3's epic boss presentation. There are a few redeemable things that keep this guy out of dumpster land though. I love that you can manipulate the arena prior to entry. Utilizing the switches and seeing the platforms rise is quite satisfying, even if I didn't really know what it meant on my first playthrough. I can also give Dragon Rider a bit of an excuse, as he is meant to be in the caliber of difficulty as something like Asylum Demon, a first simple challenge to give a taste of the combat before moving forward. And watching him fall off the map is hysterical. In all honesty, these things could raise him up even a bit higher, but I know that's not what we all play Souls for, so we'll leave him here for now. Sidebar, remember to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the series. And hit the notification bell to stay up to date with the rankings. Thank you. Number 146, Moonlight Butterfly. I know some people would want this thing in last. Second to last, third to last, fourth to last. etc. It's not really a fight. And I'm with you guys on the frustration of sitting there waiting for it to land while you're out of flasks. How many players do you guys think would be cool with FromSoft adding a one-shot fly swatter item into the game that just flick this dumbass moth out of the sky? However, I like the ambitious idea. I love the visual design, the area is unique, the color palette is gorgeous. It's just simply not fitting as a Dark Souls boss though. Perhaps if this was played off more as a level hazard, it could have been a better fit, but as it is, sitting and waiting for minutes at a time as the butterfly chips away at your health is not engaging or satisfying. Number 145, Headless Ape. Starting to notice kind of a theme here. It's almost like duo gank reskins are not the most fun thing to do. Thankfully, Sekiro's combat is amazing and the Headless Ape variant is such a fun enemy to fight that it makes this one not quite as bad as some of the others. Still not great though. Number 144, Fia's Champions. This is another one of those bosses that is literally just nothing. Nobody cares about this fight or will remember it. Gank NPC fight. Lame. At least it's satisfying to mow them down with a few good cleaves. Number 143, Ruined Sentinels. While on paper this fight should be a bit higher on the list, and I know some people genuinely like it, let me explain why I have such a distaste for it. I played the games in order of Dark Souls 3, then Dark Souls 2, then Dark Souls 1. Dark Souls 3 has numerous spectacle fights and even some duo fights that truly manage to inspire awe in the visual and mechanical departments. This fight is when I truly realized that this game was not going to be that, at least for the first half. This fight feels like one of the most clunky, janky fights of the entire series, with a tiny platform to fight an entire boss. And if you drop, you get triple ganked. Woohoo! While the mechanics are technically well thought out, balancing the aggro isn't too difficult, and the enemies are quite unique, something about the presentation and execution have always bothered me. It always felt like a demo for something better and more interesting, and for that, I have to leave the Ruined Sentinels here. Number 142, Demon Fire Sage. Okay, so it's the same boss from earlier in the game, but red. Cool. 141, Stray Demon. Okay, so it's the same boss from earlier in the game, but with one or two changed attacks, and you fall to find him. Cool. Number 140, Covetous Demon. I put Covetous Demon above more than 20 other bosses. You guys are fuming. Oh, give me the hate. I'm not going to say this is a good boss, but I have a lot of fun fighting him. He's objectively bad, lazy, ugly, boring, and weak, but his lore of gluttony and slow meandering attacks are so fun to play around. He's become a meme in the community for a reason, and as I said, I prefer lame fights to infuriating ones. I can see why someone would put this in their bottom few, but for all the subjective reasons imaginable, I don't really mind him. Number 139, Pinwheel. Okay, so this is like the Covetous Demon of Dark Souls 1, but this one I will defend a little bit more. Yes, most people will kill Pinwheel in a hit or two. Yes, there should be a patch to have him have double or triple HP or something, and the problem would probably be fixed. What I do love about this fight though is the lore and the presentation. If you're curious at all, I recommend watching a full lore video on Pinwheel and his tragic familial backstory. I love his cutscene in Arena and its disturbing implications. And I think it's generally a very inventive boss. It's kind of all ruined when he has less HP than a drunken child, but hey, what are you gonna do? I don't hate him, I just wish there was so much more. Number 138, Centipede Demon. This is one that's similar to the Ancient Dragon. While the combat might be one of the worst things I've ever seen, I really do love the presentation. The cutscene got me really hyped to fight the boss, and I like that you can take the boss into a slightly larger section of the arena to battle. I also love cutting off the heads of the demon and seeing them writhe on the ground afterwards. The problem comes from the camera and the AI. Sometimes he won't even come in range to be hit, spamming you from safety. Oh my god, watching this footage in retrospect is kind of making me want to throw up. I think I should have lowered this guy. While I typically do not have issues with the camera in Souls games, sometimes this boss decides he wants to stand on the 1 square inch you have to battle him, and visibility becomes shorter than Reindeer F-Land. The combat is trash, but the look is cool, so I threw him a generous bone. Maybe he'll share it with Cerberus. Number 137, Deacons of the Deep. Without this fight, we probably would have never gotten the fight I consider to be a masterpiece in Renala, Queen of the Full Moon. For that, the Deacons can have all my love. I love you, Deacon. That was an intimate moment. They're not good, but they don't make me upset in any way. They're kind of forgettable on your path to bigger and better things, but there is certainly a satisfying component to rolling through them all with your strength weapon or hacking away at them relentlessly with the straight sword. Number 136, Giant Lord. How many of these are we going to have this episode? This guy sucks in combat and mechanics, but rocks in presentation. Even the lore is kind of sick. This guy is the last giant from the beginning of the game, and he looks kind of badass. He's wielding this massive sword, but then barely even uses it as you hack away at his ankles. Again, when people complain about the fire giant, please go back and play this fight. But it's not all bad, like I said. The huge statue head rolling is a really cool obstacle in your way, and the backdrop of traveling to the past during war, the giants add to the stakes of the battle. Still though, the combat is almost unforgivably boring and bad. Number 135, Living Failures. The biggest positives I can give these guys is that they live up to their name. They balance their aggression relatively well, and the Phase 2 transition is audio and visual perfection. Outside of those two positives, this is just another one of those randomish, spammy gang fights with minimal mechanics and an otherwise flawless DLC. Number 134, Ceaseless Discharge. Try saying that 5 times fast. Ceaseless Discharge, Ceaseless Discharge. There were more than a few people I made upset when they didn't see Ceaseless Discharge at the bottom 10 of the list. Well, like I said, I try to rate these bosses on a variety of metrics, and this is another case of one-note trash tier combat, but for some reason I find the huge, unbearably slow wind-ups really fun to avoid, and the subsequent hacking equally enjoyable. God, he's so stupid, but it's fun. His lore is tragic and engaging. Also, I always wanted to go, "This is Sparta!" to a boss, and you finally get to do that with this guy. I'd place him in a similar category as Dragon Rider for a lot of reasons, but he has superior presentation and lore, making him not the worst of the worst. Number 133, Skeleton Lords. I feel I might have repeated myself more than once at this point, so I'll keep this short. Skeletal genocide! Woo! Number 132, The One Reborn. The brutality and disgust of the cutscene matched with the disturbing enemy design are the only reasons this isn't at the bottom. Again, some of the combat here is inexcusably bad, but I can't help but be engaged when I'm staring at something so inventively evil. Like, seriously, this guy rains bodies on you! Bloodborne isn't always about the combat, it's sometimes about the atmosphere, and this creature helped build the twisted world that I fell in love with. It's not really a fun fight though. Number 131, Folding Screen Monkeys. Folding Screen Monkeys are a great idea executed alright. I have never gone through the intended steps to kill these monkeys, as I found it easier to just run around randomly slaughtering them. After looking it up and seeing the intended way, I was surprised by the creativity involved with one of From's only well-designed puzzle bosses. Also, anyone who knows me knows I hate monkeys. I just hate the thing, so going monkey hunting, it's like a fantasy come true. However, because you can literally just run past and ignore all of the thought that went into it, negating all the intrigue, I have to place them lower than I wish I could. Number 130, Witches of Hemwick. This is a tricky fight to rank because depending on what you're looking for, this could easily be a top 10 worst fight of the series. It involves essentially stealth mechanics and walking around the arena searching for the invisible witches. They can revive themselves, and the only major threat in the arena is a random enemy from the level thrown in. I'd put this in the category of The One Reborn, where it might not be the best fight mechanically, but it does a pretty good job of building an atmosphere, setting a tone, and executing on that premise. I don't think it's great, but I don't hate it. At least it's not monkeys. 129, Corrupted Monk. So this is the false corrupt monk from Sekiro, not the later true corrupt monk. I suppose my reasoning for not enjoying this bout as much as I could have is simple. 1, it's an inferior version of a later enemy. 2, it negates all of the tension built in Mibu Village. 3, the fight can be a slog with only 1 health bar. I was expecting something truly mind-blowing at the finale of Mibu Village, so being met with a ghost version of a later enemy was hugely disappointing. Imagine if they managed to bring something like Orphan of Kos alive in Sekiro. Wow, that would have been a crazy battle. Something to fit the disgusting, decrepit nature of the preceding area. But really, it's just how the fight can feel like a chore. Sekiro really shines in the combat department, and while the monk's attacks are not much changed from the future battle, this one feels much more annoying to deal with. Additionally, the plethora of cheeses took the fight down one more notch, as it feels kind of game-breaking. Number 128, Crystal Sage. As much as I want to like this fight, mages are just not something FromSoft gets right usually. The difficulty is so hard to balance, as sometimes I feel like I absolutely obliterate this goofy hat-wearing fool in a few hits, and sometimes I feel like I can't go anywhere without being one-shot myself. The mechanics are alright, the arena is meh, the enemy design is bleh. All in all, it could have been a lot better, but it's far from terrible. Number 127, Old Dragon Slayer. While this fight is vastly inferior to ONS in every single way, I can't say that there isn't a certain charm to facing him again, one-on-one. Just wish he didn't have a damn dragon right in front of his arena. He's a dragon slayer, and he doesn't slay dragons. Why are you dissing my homie Ornstein like that? Come on. Plus, then it makes it really hard to fight him early game. And I wish he had a phase 2 transition to match his previous battle, but it's a mild callback to a point of greatness. Number 126, The Last Giant. This is another fight I want to love, as there is some really cool stuff here. I love the opening cutscene, the phase 2 transition, and the general lore. However, it's a giant fight in a Souls game. And you sit at his ankles the whole time and he stomps. That's about it. Even after he rips off his arm, he stomps. What? God damn it. That's the biggest investment for new attacks that I could ever imagine. Ripping off a whole freaking limb? And then you're just gonna stomp still anyways? What the? I give first bosses a bit of a pass because they're supposed to be simpler, but even with that I couldn't justify anything more here. Poor guy. It's the last freaking giant and he's a freaking doofus. Number 125, Guardian Dragon. If this boss actually lets you hit him and he doesn't spend the entire fight on top of his cage, it's a pretty good dragon fight. If he stays up there long enough though, prepare your pitchforks because this is going to be a long and painful fight. I really love the arena as this is one of the most unique in the series, but the dragon design itself gets reused quite often in the next area. Another mixed bag. Also, it looks kind of like a chicken. Number 124, Gravelord Nito. I kind of love Nito, but I also kind of hate him. The run back is long and arduous, the drop decimates your HP, and timing the dodge on that ranged spear, I mean that spear ends up in my asshole every time. This means that before you even fight Nito, you might almost be dead. Thankfully, if you remain in the front of the arena, you won't aggro the giant skeletons in the back, but the little ones will still cause problems. Thankfully, Nito destroys them, but they come back to life. Nito is kind of a tale of two sides, one ass and the other not ass. Presentation is flawless. I love the entrance to his arena, but the fight is a combination of great and bad ideas, leaving it somewhere around a 4 or 5. Number 123, Valiant Gargoyle Duo. Elden Ring is back and rounding out the last spot in the video. This is another attempt to recapture the energy of the first battle with the duo gargoyles and yet another battle that comes up short. I will say though that if they simply removed the insane tick damage from the poison cloud, this fight would skyrocket in rankings. I love pretty much everything else about the fight except a few wonky hitboxes. The arena, the gargoyles individually designed, the varied attacks, everything is on point, but that poison really can ruin it sometimes. And that's that. I would say that these are all the bosses. Next time we're on to the pretty okay bosses. Check out my other rankings if you're interested, and thanks for watching. Peace.